Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Village Hall, and it is my privilege to give what will be the fifth State of the Village address that I've been able to give in my capacity as Mayor of the Village of Downers Grove. Technically, it's called the 2015 Annual Report, and is a looking backward on the last year, what we had accomplished, and then a little bit of looking forward into the future. Of course, State of the Village addresses, or State of the Union or State of the State addresses, date back to a very long, proud history. In most organizations in our country, it is customary for the Chief Executive Officer to give a State of the fill-in-the-blank address. And in fact, this dates back to the very founding of our nation. George Washington not only delivered the first such annual report, State of the Union address, but he also delivered the shortest State of the Union address at just over 1,000 written words. Now, you can probably guess which president gave the longest State of the Union address. Yes, it was Bill Clinton. In his 1995 speech, he topped 9,000 spoken words, and nearly half of them were extemporized. That one went on for over an hour and a half. I promise you that I will fall somewhere between George Washington and William Jefferson Clinton. The Village of Downers Grove Annual Report is an opportunity to recap the past year, take measure of our accomplishments, and look forward to the challenges and opportunities that the future presents. As has been the practice in the prior four annual reports, State of the Village addresses, my address this year will be organized along the lines of the Village's 5 strategic goals. And for those of you that need a refresher as to what those are, the Village has 5 strategic goals that were developed to guide Village actions in the our long-range plan from 2015 to 2017 and beyond. Those 5 strategic goals are: number 1, be good stewards of financial, environmental, and neighborhood sustainability. Number 2, provide exceptional municipal services. Number 3, maintain top quality infrastructure. Number 4, encourage a strong and diverse local economy. And number 5, foster continual innovation. So without further ado, we'll go to stewardship of financial sustainability in particular. I'm very pleased to say that the Village of Downers Grove is well positioned for continued financial sustainability. In this last year, in our current budget situation, we were able to reduce our general fund expenses by $700,000 compared to budget. The adopted budget reduces the total village staffing from 329.3 full-time equivalent positions. That's not 0.3 of a person, that's a 0.3 of an FTE. And we're now down to 325.6 FTEs. That's a decline of 3.7 full-time employee positions. So we continue to be a lean organization. However, the adopted budget includes funding for an additional planner in the Community Development Department, bringing the staffing of that department to its 2014 level and recognizing the increased demand upon that department as further expansion of the economy locally, as well as more demands for building permits and inspections rise as we see more and more activity in that area. The general fund balance was increased by an estimated $1.2 million. This balance increase will continue to be in an amount equal to approximately, our general fund balance, continues to be in an amount equal to approximately 38% of our annual expenses. That's very important. Why, you ask, is that important? It's because that general fund balance is consistent with Standard & Poor's guidelines to maintain the Village's top AAA bond rating. This is something that we are very mindful of, maintaining that rating from Standard & Poor's, and you'll see in a moment why that's important, because it ultimately is not only an indicator of a soundly managed organization, but also translates into real savings for our community. We're also glad to report that there was no increase in the property tax levy for operations. For the general fund, for the day-to-day operations of the village and providing the basic services that most of us come to expect and rely upon on a day-to-day basis. And this is for the 4th time in 5 years the adopted budget does not increase the property tax for operations. Now, I'm emphasizing for operations because we did have an increase this year and have sometimes in the past with respect to the levy for public safety pensions. These are the pension obligations that the state mandates that we make payments in order to fund the pensions for our public safety employees. And in this current budget, we did have an increase of about $900,000 that was required by state statute in order to meet our public safety employee pension obligations. But with respect to the general fund and our operations, for which we have exclusive control for the most part, we were able not to have any increase for that purpose. All of this reflects a continued culture of lean, L-E-A-N, within the Village of Downers Grove that has persisted for some time. L-E-A-N not only spells lean, but it also is an acronym that, and this is my fault, I'll take credit or the blame for it, stands for leveraging existing assets neatly. And I think it's something that we continue to do as much as possible, is doing more with less. Eventually, we're going to be asking our staff to do everything with nothing, but being very creative and finding ways to maximize our partnerships and other relationships so as to stem the tide of rising costs and yet still continue to meet the mission and the goals that I outlined earlier here in the village. Also want to point out that we obviously have a new council that was seated recently. That new council was able to come together rather quickly and cohesively and come up with a long-range plan within 100 days of the new council being sworn in. So that's a pretty good indication that while we all have differences of opinion, which we'll probably see some later tonight when we talk about a couple issues, we have worked together effectively to put together things that matter and move the village forward to continued success. As part of that long-range plan, the consensus of the council provided effective direction on things such as holding the stormwater fee flat, stormwater utility fee flat, that is, for 2016, and also returning a contribution by the village to the Meals on Wheels program in fiscal 2015 and fiscal 2016 to meet the needs of some of our most deserving citizens in that regard in respect to the time in their life. I mentioned earlier that also is very important for maintaining our AAA bond rating, which we did affirm our AAA bond rating once again with the rating agency Standard & Poor's. Now this is important, and I promise to tell you why, for a number of reasons, but in particular, that bond rating impacts our ability to borrow money or issue bonds, and it impacts directly the rate that we pay for those bonds. A AAA bond rating allows us to maximize the savings on any bond refunding or reissuance that we do, and oftentimes saving us significant dollars in the six-figure or more range. The AAA bond rating, as I mentioned, also demonstrates to the community the village's exceptional financial management practices, because this is an outside independent rating agency that looks at how we conduct ourselves and gives us that high rating. That is the highest rating that a municipality can garner. And just to give you an idea, I don't think the state of Illinois has a bond rating. I'm kidding, they have one, but it's not AAA. Also, we have other instances of outside recognition of the village's sound financial management practices and procedures. We have a wall in the back, which one of these days we really ought to have a photograph of, because I think we're going to need a new wall to hang up all the awards, but this year was no exception. The village received the GFOA Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, as well as the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the village's comprehensive annual financial report. So it's always nice to receive that kind of recognition from the outside entities with respect to our practices. Well, we're not just good stewards of financial sustainability within the community. The Village of Downers Grove continues to be a good steward of neighborhood character sustainability. And if you, unless you were on a cruise around the world, you wouldn't have missed the fact that historic preservation was a big topic over the last 6 months or so. But quick way of background, in 2007, the Village of Downers Grove adopted its first ever historic preservation ordinance, which was a significant step forward for the community in terms of neighborhood character sustainability. But the ordinance, which was a compromise when it was adopted at the time, had elements that made it, or it was perceived by many to be too complicated or too difficult to pursue. And we were not experiencing a great many of applications for folks seeking historic preservation for their homes on a voluntary basis. The Village Council, and particularly working with staff and an extraordinary, unique group of individuals from both our Architectural Design Review Board as well as a special ad hoc subcommittee that was devoted to historic preservation, got together and on an extraordinarily short amount of time came up with a series of recommendations for improving the existing historic preservation ordinance, and more importantly, coming up with tools to increase awareness of historic preservation, to dispel some of the myths that were surrounding historic preservation, and to create incentives and encouragement for more residents in our community to voluntarily seek protection of their homes for not only their own benefit, but for the benefit of the community. It was very issue-focused. The combined Architectural Design Review Board and Ad Hoc Historic Preservation Subcommittee completed their project in the 90 days that they were tasked to do it in. We owe them a great debt of gratitude for their tremendous work. And I am glad to say that with the changes that were adopted by the Village Council upon their recommendation, we have already received a number of applications from residents seeking historic landmark status for their homes under our modified ordinance. There was recently an Architectural Design Review Board meeting. That is the agency that overlooks requests or applications for historic preservation and then makes a recommendation to the Village Council. We already have, I'm glad to say, one positive recommendation from the Architectural Design Review Board for a home to be historically designated in our community. There are other petitions that are waiting, so the Council can look forward to actually seeing the product of some of these recent changes. And more to come. We will be talking soon about an update, a review and update of our comprehensive plan, and there are also elements of community sustainability and neighborhood sustainability in that project as well. So more to come. Let me turn to one of the next items I mentioned, which is number 2, that is providing exceptional municipal services. It's nice to be in the top 1%, and not the top 1% that receives a lot of criticism in protests out in the street. I mean the top 1% of fire departments and top 1% of police departments within our community. Let me start with the fire department. We are extremely proud that the Downers Grove Fire Department was recognized recently as one of the top 1% of fire departments in the entire country. That's a tremendous accomplishment. This is very beneficial to our community because both property and business owners in our community, like ours, that has an excellent ISO rating, has an impact, a beneficial impact to them through lower fire insurance premiums. So not only is this a good thing for our department, a good thing for our community in terms of fire prevention and fire response, but also there's an immediate benefit or a benefit through lower costs of fire insurance for homeowners. So this is an important goal to not only strive for, but also to maintain. So we are very proud of our fire department for achieving another standard of excellence. Not to be outdone, the Downers Grove Police Department also was recently recognized as being one of the top 1% of the entire nation. This is the highest level of recognition awarded by CALEA, which is the organization that is in charge of certifying police departments around the country, an independent outside organization. The professionalism of our police department personnel and the high quality of service that they provide to the community was a large part in the very successful accreditation outcome by CALEA at the very top of the list. Our financial department, as you might have guessed, also receives top marks from outside organizations. And with respect to our audit, our financial department went through another audit process with no management letter comments. And I can tell you that having been involved with the village since 2001, I remember days when every management letter, every audit came with a number of management letter comments. To have none is truly an accomplishment and once again an indication of good processes and good financial practices and a well-managed village organization. It confirms that the village's financial practices are exceptional, and as I hope it does with you, instills in all of us confidence that the community's finances are being well managed. A couple other things to note here with respect to municipal services. We approved not too long ago a 2-year contract for solid waste disposal with no fee increases. We were pleased with the service that we are receiving from our existing contractor, and we're able to negotiate a 2-year extension of that contract with no additional increase in fees, but we did receive some additional benefits. So all in all, a good outcome and one that we are thankful to our staff for their ability to negotiate. We maintained existing fees for stickers and carts, but we're able to add one amnesty day, which is something very popular in the community. The secured recycling pickup services in the downtown, another additional benefit, and another example of exceptional services being continued throughout the community by one of our outside vendors. One other thing to mention on the financial front, and I was talking about bond reissuances and how that bond rating can help us save money. We refunded a portion of our 2008 stormwater bond issuance. That refunding, which is something that we do whenever we see the opportunity to do so, and staff is very astute at identifying opportunities for when a refunding can take place, and with that AAA bond rating, it allows us to save a good chunk of money. How much, you ask? This particular refunding saved the village over $500,000. Let me move on to maintaining top quality infrastructure. And it's, I think, only appropriate that we will be having an extensive infrastructure conversation later tonight with respect to the building that we're sitting in, as well as the Downers Grove Police Station. And on that note, in this last year, we were able to pick up again the conversation of our facilities sustainability plan, being, as you see pictured there, both the Village Hall at 801 Burlington and the Downers Grove Police Station building, which is at 825 Burlington. We were able to, as part of picking up the conversation and moving it forward, reaffirm the maintenance and operational issues that both buildings are experiencing. Through the consensus of the council, came up with a $16 million project budget, which includes existing revenue sources, and hired an architect, who we'll be hearing from later tonight and during a different discussion, to draft options for improvements to these buildings with associated cost estimates, so both the community and the council can have a meaningful conversation and come to some solutions on a long overdue problem. And why do I say long overdue? For those of you who may not have been following along, this was originally planned to have been addressed back in 2006 and 2007. The buildings were beyond their useful life at that point in time and were desperately in need of either repair or replacement. That process was derailed by the recession. It is now almost 10 years later, coming up on 10 years later, and unlike fine wine, these buildings have not gotten better with age. So we're glad that we're at the point of hopefully achieving a solution to both of them in the very near future. And as mentioned, we'll be discussing that later tonight. With respect to top quality infrastructure, one of the things that we are very proactive about pursuing are grants. These are your dollars that are out there from other state and federal agencies that our staff identifies opportunities and then works very hard to bring those dollars back to Downers Grove where we can put them to use for you. I'll give you a few examples. We were able to obtain a $900,000 grant for reconstruction of commuter lot H. These were Metro funds that were used for the reconstruction of that commuter parking lot, which is over by the Belmont Road train station. Another example was a $530,000 acquisition, a grant for the acquisition of flood-prone properties. Say that 10 times fast, flood-prone properties. These were funds that were available and secured by the village for the acquisition of properties that are in flood-prone areas of the village so that we can mitigate some of the stormwater and flooding issues that exist there. Another $290,000 were obtained from asset forfeiture funds from the Department of Justice. $75,000 were obtained for use in public safety programs, and $30,000 for traffic safety improvements, such as a modernized traffic signal master controller for the Main Street, Warren Avenue, Burlington Avenue intersections with new software that will adjust to the train and vehicular traffic activity. That's a very challenging intersection, and the ability to get a grant to study that further and hopefully make some improvements for both the train and the pedestrian, the vehicular traffic is something that we're looking forward to seeing the results of. Moving on to our local economy. One of our strategic goal objectives is to encourage, as mentioned, a strong, diverse local economy. And this last year was no exception with respect to some of the accomplishments that we were able to talk about. I'm just going to highlight a few in the interest of time. In our downtown, we've seen substantial new investment in our downtown and in that local economy. Three, not one, not two, but three commercial development projects were approved in the downtown. We will be seeing, most likely very soon, considerable additional density in our downtown that will be there to support the businesses and shops and restaurants in our downtown. This is part of a trend towards those who don't necessarily want to own cars, they don't necessarily want to own large homes and on a traditional lot, but are looking for upscale places to live that are proximate to activities, restaurants, shopping, and of course, transportation, such as our Main Street train station. So we're seeing a lot of interest in more units of this type, and a number of projects have been approved for the downtown, and we suspect there may be more coming as this is the trend for suburban areas that are located proximate to transportation hubs like the metro stops that we have here in Downers Grove. Staff worked very hard in facilitating two new additions to our community, our commercial community. One was the grand opening of the Art Van Furniture Store up on the north end of town. If you haven't been to the Art Van store, it is not just an Art Van store, it is the flagship Art Van store for the state of Illinois, and is truly a handsome development, particularly when you see how they transformed that space from what it used to be. It was a space that was, I want to say, not only underutilized, but wasn't being utilized, and now is truly a terrific addition to our sales tax base in our community, and Art Van in particular has been a terrific new corporate citizen in our community. There were a number of challenges that were presented by that project, and I think that the way that our staff handled it has really gone a great deal to further our reputation for being creative and business friendly, and thus helping us to attract additional projects of this size and magnitude, which of course are very important to our sales tax base, because that allows us to help keep down our other tax sources such as the property tax. We welcome Fresh Time Grocery to Ogden Avenue in Downers Grove over Ogden Avenue in Fairview. Again, what was basically a parking lot is now a new grocery store, and one that if you haven't had a chance to visit, please do. The grocery store company not only liked Downers Grove for the site of the store, but also we were very pleased to find out that they have since relocated their headquarters to Downers Grove. Once again, showing Downers Grove to be a premier location for corporate headquarters in the United States. We also attracted Ziegler Ram ProMaster to Downers Grove, another good source of sales tax revenue, and we continue to work with the Downers Grove Economic Development Corporation and village staff to identify opportunities for further economic growth in our community, in our commercial corridors, and make sure that Downers Grove is one of the top choices when companies have options of where they want to locate. Time does not permit me to go through some of the other economic development wins that the village has recently experienced. I will point out very quickly that Alter Brewing, one of them over in the Ellsworth Industrial Park, will be having their grand opening later this week. So we continue to attract new businesses, exciting businesses to Downers Grove, which then in turn themselves become destination points for visitors to our community. Of course, we like it when visitors come to our community and spend money. Let me move on now to the next and last of the 5 strategic plan elements, which is our challenging our staff to continually innovate. This goes back to that concept of lean, leveraging existing assets neatly, but also beyond. It's about partnering, it's about communication, cooperation, and where it makes sense, consolidation with other public or private entities, so that we can continue to provide services to our community in the way that they have come to expect, and yet keep our costs at the same or reduce them whenever possible. So it's about enhancing services and reducing costs as much as possible. In order to do that, you can't just do the things the way they've always been done. You have to be innovative. You have to be creative. And as mentioned, partnerships and cooperating with other entities, both in the public and private sector, are key to achieving those goals. Let me give you some examples. One private sector partnership that we recently entered into was for vehicle parts inventory for the village fleet vehicles. This public-private partnership will save the village $150,000 over 3 years. It eliminates one vehicle from our fleet and improves the efficiency by allowing our technicians here to do more vehicle maintenance than they otherwise would. This, as the slide indicates, is a partnership that we have with Napa Auto Parts. On the public sector, we have once again partnered with the Downers Grove Park District on public improvements. This was a partnership that was modeled after a very successful earlier partnership with the District 58 School District. This partnership allows the Park District to reduce their costs of paving and helps reduce the cost for both of us with respect to our shared constituents. This is another example of the village always looking out for opportunities to partner with other entities if it will allow us to, again, enhance or maintain our services at the same or lower costs at a time when everything seems to be getting more expensive. This is something that we have to continually work at. It does not happen by accident, but only by the sharp eyes of our staff looking for opportunities where we can pursue them when it makes sense. On the educational front, the village also collaborated with our partners at Midwestern University on the north end of town to provide fire and police training. This was a tremendous exercise where Midwestern University opened up their campus to our first responders and allowed them to conduct training exercises on their campus, which is an environment that we otherwise wouldn't have available. It provided extensive training to our first responders at a low cost, enhanced our wonderful relationship with Midwestern University, and trained 500 participants, not just from Downers Grove, but from a total of 12 different departments, using 91 live burns, as you can see here on the screen. And that's about as real as it gets in terms of a training environment. So we are grateful to Midwestern University for our continued partnership in that regard and allowing us to collaborate in this way. I would be remiss if I didn't note a few other recognitions that were received for some of our outstanding members of staff. Our Sergeant McMahon received the Pro Patria Award. Lieutenant Borman also received the Pro Patria Award. The village received the Illinois Department of Transportation Traffic Safety Challenge first place outcome. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that our own village manager, Dave Fieldman, received the Intergovernmental Cooperation Award from the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference, recognizing a local leader for commitment to the support of the conference and the region to further the goals of intergovernmental cooperation, which, as I mentioned, is more important now than ever before in terms of delivery of service and maintaining costs. So we are very proud of Dave Fieldman as being selected as the 2015 recipient for that Intergovernmental Cooperation Award. Dave also serves on the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference Board of Directors, and we benefit from that, and as does the rest of the county, in fostering additional partnerships and relationships to improve municipal service generally. So I will wrap up by answering the question that everyone always asks about any organization in its State of the Village or State of the Union or State of the State address. And the question you will ask me is, so Mayor Tully, what is the state of Downers Grove? My answer is that the state of the Village of Downers Grove is strong, it is lean, it is resilient, and it is poised. As you've seen, we are in good shape financially, and we are well positioned and poised to take advantage of opportunities that will come down the road. We are in good shape in terms of resiliency, and that there are challenges that we will be facing, and there are many that lie ahead. These challenges include challenges from the state, and I'm glad that for now, at least in the governor's proposed budget, there is no request to reduce or lower the municipal share of the state income tax, also known as the local government distributive fund. But that is a continual storm cloud on the horizon, and we need to be poised and resilient and be prepared to address those challenges should they come our way. We are poised and resilient in the sense that we are constantly looking for ways to do more with less, primarily with partnerships, but also through efficiencies and that lean philosophy that has become part of the DNA here in the village, through identifying opportunities for consolidation and pursuing them whenever it makes sense, not consolidating for the sake of consolidation, but doing it where it will achieve our goals. We have challenges such as what we'll be talking about later tonight about how do we achieve an outcome and a solution for our facilities challenge, our police station and our village hall in a way that the council, the staff, and more importantly, the community can support, and what else the economy might throw at us. We don't know, but the Village of Downers Grove, I would dare say more than most municipalities, is well positioned, is resilient, and is poised to not only face challenges but also take advantage of opportunities. And there will be many opportunities in the years coming ahead. I would dare say that 2016 promises to be a very exciting year. I think the next few years promise to be some of the best of the Village of Downers Grove yet. And I hope to see you all here, continuing to participate in our organization, both at budget meetings, at public hearings on important issues, and at future State of the Village addresses, where I'm looking forward to talking about future successes. I want to wrap up very quickly by thanking my colleagues in the Village Council, because without our collective working together and collaboration, cooperation, and communication, we couldn't achieve these successes. But none of it would be possible without our outstanding village staff. From all our different departments under the leadership of Manager Fieldman and his team, they are the ones that truly make everything that I've described in terms of success a reality. But most of all, none of this would be possible, ladies and gentlemen, without the support of the community, your engagement, your participation, your contributions to your local government, because that's what makes Downers Grove a great place to live, work, play, and thrive, is the people. And we thank you for all that you do to make everything that we do and our staff possible. So with that, I appreciate your attention, your rapt attention to tonight's State of the Village address. I look forward to speaking with you again next year. And of course, during public comments or at any other point in time, coffee with the council, we and all of us are available for questions and comments of anything that might be on your mind. So thank you very much, and at least with respect to this address, good night.